Welcome to the new space, guys. So this is the outbuilding slash shed slash what will be my workspace here now at the new house. And so in today's video, I'm gonna go over the building, what exactly it is, what we need to do to it still, the pros and cons of it, all that good stuff. We have two of the 350s in here that are just being holding tanks right now, got some fish in there, and then we did manage to get the big aquarium moved in here as well. Moving that big tank was a nightmare, and I'm the type of guy who doesn't like to always ask my friends for help, especially when doing something annoying like moving a big fish tank. So needless to say, I put it off for too long, but we managed to get it moved. One thing that helped me a ton was these suction cups. I can't believe that I didn't have these already, even when it comes to moving the smaller aquariums like the 50s. These things helped out a major amount, okay? And it would have been impossible to move that thing without them. So if you don't have suction cups, if you have fish tanks, you need to just have these on standby. So I'll put a link for them on Amazon where I got them. As some of you guys know, my wife and I moved recently to this new place. And one of the reasons why we picked this house was because it had this really cool kind of third car garage sized outbuilding. A little bit smaller than what I think would be perfect for me. It's 20 feet in length and 10 feet wide. So we're working with about 200 square feet here. I think that if I had an extra 10 feet this way, making it about 400 square feet, I think that would be perfect, but then I go back in my head and, you know, bigger is always better, right? One of the reasons why moving took so long and was so difficult was because I had to do a lot of stuff to this space to get it ready before I could move the fish tanks in. So I'm gonna take you guys through that process of, you know, what we had here with the building and then what we had to do to it, and then I'll get into the pros and cons and things like that. One thing that was great about this outbuilding was that it wasn't like a shed. I like to think in my head of a shed as being something that is small, it could be about this size, but has a wooden floor, right? It's kind of like not exactly a permanent structure. But this outbuilding had a concrete floor, and it also already had electricity to it. Furthermore, the electric was what I needed, so 20 amp circuits already being in here made a huge difference. But there was quite a few things that we needed to do to this place to get it up to the standards that I wanted. So we needed to put in some more receptacles and then also move them down into better locations. They were up on the wall here. So I got some help from a buddy that was a general contractor, and we started cutting out the walls. This allowed us to move the electric and put things in the right places where I wanted them for the tanks and other stuff. Once that was done, I needed to do something about the particle board walls in here, because nobody wants to look at particle board. What I decided to do was do a skim coat over that particle board, and that way I could try and get closer to a drywall finish. This was the first time that I had ever done anything like this, and so I didn't do the best job. Not sure how well you're gonna be able to see this on camera, but I didn't use quite enough mud here. Again, it was the first time I did it. I just watched a couple YouTube videos, but I should have used more mud. We already have like some pinhole stuff going on, and I didn't get the best coverage or as much as I would have liked. I gotta just chalk that up to a learning experience though. I think I did an okay job. Once the electrical and the walls were done, I then of course painted it. So we just used some, you know, anti-mold stuff because we will have quite a bit of water in here. I'm sure the humidity is gonna be fairly high, and don't really wanna run a dehumidifier. Because this is, you know, an older outbuilding and not in the house, I'm not super worried about that. Once that was all done, I needed to do something about the floor because it was just this old concrete with a bunch of cracks in it. There wasn't any finish on it or anything, and so went ahead and spackled all the cracks, you know, cleaned it up first before painting, and then I went ahead and found some concrete paint. Now, concrete paint could have been really expensive. I went with a cheaper way. It was like $50 a gallon for what I ended up with. And on the can, it looked like it was gonna be more of a gray, and it turned out really blue. So I wasn't super stoked about that. Another thing about the flooring that I kind of regret is that I didn't put any texture or anything in it. It just shows dirt and footprints really easily. And so that's something to keep in mind if you're gonna have high traffic, especially with water, like with what I have in here. If your floor is gonna get messy, do as much as you can to hide that mess. We didn't do that here. I'm gonna probably put in some more industrial carpet in here anyway, but it's just something to keep in mind. So we started with a pretty finished space. I mean, considering there was already electric, there was already insulation, it just needed a little bit of love. So we were lucky in that regard. And that's one of the reasons why we picked this place. There isn't any direct water access in here, but we are, I mean, within 25 feet of the spigot outside. So it should make filling tanks pretty easy. I also have French drains like right outside the building. And if I don't want to do that, I haven't really figured it out yet completely, but I do have access to a gutter. I can just modify that and then be dumping the water out into that. I think that covers most of the work that we spent the last month or so doing. The pros, I mean, I think we kind of mentioned most of it. We already had the concrete floor in here. We had the electrical already, just had to make a little bit of modifications to it. It's insulated, and that's gonna bring me into the cons. So obviously with a space like this, it's an office, but it's also housing aquariums. We need to have it heated and cooled. My original idea was to get a mini split and put it right about there. But the cost of doing that was gonna be around $2,000, and the unit itself, the inside unit, is fairly big. Even with like the smallest or weakest mini split that you can find, that unit's still big. It's gonna take up a lot of visual space, and this is a smaller area. In the summertime, it did get pretty hot in here, but I was able to mitigate that by just leaving the big roll-up door cracked, having a bunch of fans in here, so it wasn't getting crazy hot, but it's not the way I want to do things in the future. So with it now being winter, I switched over and decided to see how well this thing does as far as maintaining heat. There aren't any windows in here, so the only heat sink is this big roll-up door. I'm not sure how much heat is gonna get lost through this thing, but we're gonna find out. So right now I'm just rocking the combination of the fan that's always going. It's obviously off now because I'm filming, but for heating this winter, I decided to go with what I think is the safest option. I don't know if you're an electrician, let me know if I'm messing up here, but this thing is plugged into obviously a 20 amp circuit, so the 1500 watts it pulls, that should be okay. I went ahead and got a 12 gauge extension cord just in case I needed to have more reach on this thing. My only question is, how safe is this really? I mean, this cord that is, came with it, that's default into it, is a 16 gauge wire, which if I'm doing the math right, that shouldn't be safe, but it comes attached to this thing. I don't know. If you're an electrician, let me know if this is super not safe, but I think this is probably the best way to do it. I have this heater plugged into a thermostat, and so, it just tries to regulate the temperature in the mid 70s at this point. But that's really only the biggest con, and I think the thing that we're gonna need to figure out eventually with this space. I think we're gonna make it through the winter and be just fine. If we can't maintain a high enough temperature in here, we can always just heat the tanks. We don't have a ton of aquariums in here, so it's more of a comfort thing for me, and being out here working, having that temperature regulation outside, at least in this space. I forgot to mention cooling. I caught myself editing, but I think what the plan is basically this spring to put in a window in this area and then have a window AC unit, because those are the most efficient. I think that'll solve our problem for the summer times. So that's my outbuilding, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the fan back on because it's getting a little hot out here, but we have more to show you. So there isn't just this that's gonna be part of the AQUAPROS / legit fish food / I think the only other thing that I want to do is probably change the roll-up door. So it seems really cool, but having to come over here, every time and roll this thing up and down, it makes noise, it pisses off the neighbor dog and he starts barking. So having a couple French doors on this space I think would be quieter and a little bit nicer, and then it also might be better if this turns out to be a really bad heat sink this winter. But yeah, I think that's pretty much an overview of what has been going on out here. Moving was super crazy, everything took longer than I expected, and that's mostly why I haven't had a YouTube video out in a long time. We need to get rolling on these tanks though, it's been too long, and so that's what my new focus is now that we have everything set up and we're ready to go. Excuse my mess down here, but I wanted to show you the other half of the equation. So this is my office, my computer is behind you. We're gonna have the Serene tank set up here in the middle of all of the stickers with their creepy doll friend. Got another one of the 50s in this corner, and it's gonna be next to my new shelving unit that I just got and have been putting all my knickknacks. So we got the one tank here in the middle, and hopefully we'll have a complete video on the setup of all this pretty soon. I'm really excited about this. And yes, I decided to keep the carpet in here. Controversial move. We'll talk about that another time. So yeah, guys, that's an update on all the things that have been going on over here over the last few months. Sorry again for not having a video out to you. I've been trying to figure out, what makes the most sense moving forward for me content-wise, and where to put that content. The internet has changed so much over the last few years. It's sometimes it's hard to know what the right move is. But I think now, you know, we have the time, we got all that stuff done, we can start setting up fish tanks again. I don't really have a lot of fish tanks set up right now. I'm sure you could tell that, but I'm excited to get back to scaping and to making some cool tanks that I like and that I know you're gonna like. So if you're here watching this video and you've been with me for a while now, thank you so much. It means a lot. I know a lot of you have been watching my videos for a long time now, and so I just want to say thanks again for sticking with me through all of the life turmoil and all the changes. It means a lot. Thank you very much. And yeah, hopefully the next video we'll be setting up a tank. I got a cool idea for this one over here. It involves some trees, go figure. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.